Once again, you are all welcome to the strategic management class. And because this is our first meeting, it is going to be an introductory lecture that will tackle the various concepts and issues which are going to take a center stage in all that we'll be doing this semester. This includes the concept of strategy, the issue of strategic management and the stages that is involved. We will also briefly tackle how strategy, the three stages of strategic management, including strategy formulation, implementation, and evaluation. We will also tackle and provide examples to illustrate key terms in strategic management. We will then tackle the benefits that an organization can derive when it adopts strategic management in its managerial treaties. We will also look at why, despite the benefits of strategic management, some organizations may decide not to engage in it altogether. And finally, we will look at the pitfalls that we should be wary about and look out for so that our strategic management activity can be successful. So let's begin with the concept of strategy. If you trace the etymology of strategy, research suggests that it is a Greek word. It comes from a Greek word, which is strategia. And this strategia means generalship or the official of the office of a general. So this suggests the idea behind strategia is coming from the military circles. Now, this term is derived from strategos. Still, we are in the Greek era trying to make meaning of where strategy comes from. And the derivation of strategos can also be broken down to two words, including stratos and ego. So according to the Greek literature, stratos can simply be discerned as an army, whilst ego can also be discerned as ability to lead or to conduct. So strategos, in essence, can literally be translated as an army leader or a general. In essence, all that I'm trying to say is that the concept of strategy that we have now has its roots coming from ancient Greece. And the concept of strategy originally referred to the arts and science of planning and directing military operations. But over time, the relevance of this idea, that is the concept of strategy, has found relevance beyond the military circles. And that is why the use of the term has now expanded beyond the military context to encompass planning and decision in various fields, ranging from the service sector, if you like, business, to politics, and to all personal endeavors. So in today's usage of the concept of strategy, it broadly refers to a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term aspiration of an organization. And you can also define strategy as the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives of an enterprise and the adoption of course of actions or allocation of resources necessary to carry out all these goals. In this sense, strategy can be conceptualized as the declaration of intent, that is, an organization's ability to declare what it wants to do and how it intends to do it. That is why we are saying that strategy is about deciding where you want to go and how you mean to get there. So strategy, irrespective of how you look at it, whether in the military circles or in the world of work, it is composed of two key things, which include the ends and the means to attaining these ends. So anytime we talk about strategy, two things become imperative. The ends, or the goal that one aspires to attain, and the means that can be utilized or forged to attain these ends. Strategies can also be defined as long-term goals, but it covers how these goals will be attained. And that is why I was making reference that irrespective of how you look at it, it is composed of two key themes, including the ends or the goals you want to attain and the means that can be used to attain these ends. For that reason, we can say that strategies or a strategy guide purposeful action to deliver required results, because at the end of the day, it is helping you to see for an enterprise, it will help you to see the goal or the reason why you are into business. And it will also help you to understand how you can best approach this goal in order to what? Realize it. Now, strategic management, which is going to be the central theme for the entire semester. How can it be defined? Admittedly, a number of scholars have submitted their own elucidation of what strategic management constitutes. And at this level, I'm not going to force any of these explanations on you. If you go through, that is the materials I'll be giving you, and you read wide, any of them that is easier to comprehend, you can align yourself with. So we are going to consider a number of them, and as we proceed, we will be critiquing them in terms of some of the things they are leaving out and how close they are to explaining the realities of strategic management. So we start with the submission by Pierce and Robinson, which is quite old. They define strategic management as a set of decisions and actions resulting in the formulation and implementation of strategies designed to achieve the objectives of an organization. Now, this definition is still popular because it embodies two key components in the stages that we go through to conduct strategic management. And this include strategy formulation and implementation. But in recent times, this particular definition has been critiqued a lot because it leaves out an important component of the strategic management process, which is evaluation of the strategy. So on what basis can we conclude that a particular strategic management process has been successful? We can only discern this when we evaluate the outcome of our strategy implementation. And that component was not captured by Pearce and Robinson. Now, Wheeler and Hanger also provides an alternative explanation for what strategic management is composed of. And they indicate that it is a set of managerial decisions and actions that determine the long-run performance of a corporation. So just as Pearce and Robinson indicated, it falls within the purview of managers. So they have to take certain decisions and actions. And the end view of these decisions and actions is to attain something in the foreseeable future, which is the long run. Destler also defines strategic management as the process of identifying and executing organizations' missions by matching its capabilities with the demands of its environment. A number of scholars are also pulled to Destler's definition because in his exposition, he attempts to connect the things that an organization must do in order to realize its mission. And implicit in these things include scanning the environment of the business to identify its strengths and weaknesses. And based on this information, the right mix and fit must be drawn. And that is why they mean by matching its capabilities with the demands of its environment. So that if your environmental scan suggests that you do not have what it takes to venture into a particular market, you have a number of options. Either you fortify your capabilities before you go into it, or you rather venture into a market that will be more relevant for you to operate. And this becomes necessary when we are analyzing the issue of competitive advantage. Now, from David and David, which is the text that we'll be using this semester, they also explain strategic management as an art and science of formulating, implementing, and evaluating cross-functional decisions that enable an organization to achieve its objectives. So if you take a sober look at the explanation by David and David, and you juxtapose that with the preceding definitions, you realize they attempt to capture the salient processes that we go through in the strategic management process. And they also continue by accepting that the success or failure of any strategic management venture does not fall within the purview of a single unit or department in an organization, but it's a cross-functional decision, which implies that every department or unit in the organization must work within their powers to attain, first of all, their set targets. And these targets must also be derived from the corporate objectives that the entire business enterprise aspires to attain. All right. In essence, strategic management can be said to focus on integrating cross-functional activities such as the activities of management, the marketing department, the finance and accounting department. If you have production unit and operations, they also become essential here. Research and development department. If you have a department for IT and information systems, it also becomes necessary. So how do you integrate all these cross-functional activities? and make sure that they are able to help you achieve organizational success. If that is what you are venturing into, then we are dealing with strategic management. So strategic management in this course may intermittently be used interchangeably with strategic planning, because depending on the text you are reading and where the authors are coming from, they may utilize strategic planning more in place of strategic management. So when you come across some of these terminologies, essentially we are talking about the same thing. And it is after this strategic planning venture comes to an end where we get to have what we call the strategic plan. So what then is a strategic plan? Simply put, it can be said to be a company's game plan. Or if you can say it is the blueprint that an organization has to follow through in order to guarantee the success of their operations. So if you liken the idea of game plan to a football team, just as a football team needs a good plan to have a chance of succeeding, a company must also have a good strategy to compete successfully. And this is important because organizations do not operate in an island. In fact, in this current dispensation, organizations operate with competitors that are poised to cut your throat and take you off the market. So there must be a game plan that you will follow through at all points in time. And this game plan must have even scenarios and contingencies in it, which can befall upon any time you are dealing with other rivals in your business environment. And what is the source of this strategic plan? Research suggests that strategic plan results from tough managerial decisions, and that is what we indicated earlier on as cross-functional decisions and actions. And these tough managerial decisions are done among numerous alternatives. So on the strategic table will be compelling ideas and positions which on paper may seem more feasible when adopted for an organization to try. But then there is a need for you to do a comparative analysis and see which one will be more appropriate in the time that the business finds itself operating. So this signals that the game plan will dictate the markets that a business must commit itself with. It will also dictate the policies and procedures that will be more appropriate for the organization to thrive in the chosen market. And of course, it will also dictate the markets that will be less desirable in as far as the comparison of the series of alternatives is concerned. The stages of strategic management. The strategic management process consists of 3 key stages, including strategy formulation, strategy implementation, and strategy evaluation. And this is why some definitions may be appraised as more appropriate than others. So if you are explaining strategic management and you are able to fashion out your explanation to capture these key stages in it, then you'll be on the right path. So still on the stages of strategic management, the first stage is strategy formulation. So when you say you are formulating a strategy for an organization, what does it mean? It includes a number of things. And this usually commences with the development of the vision and mission for an organization. It also considers an attempt to scan the organization's environment. And by environment here, we are looking at both the internal and external environment of the business. So whilst scanning the internal environment, the focus will be on the strengths and weaknesses that's maintained in the organization. Whereas the external environment will supply us with information that borders on the threats in the business market, as well as the opportunities that can be capitalized on, that can be seized upon to improve the fortunes of an organization. The strategy formulation also embodies an attempt to forge or establish long-term objectives for an organization. And it is these long-term objectives that will guide the day-to-day operations of the enterprise. It is also important for the process to consider generating alternative strategy, because sometimes when you are on the strategic table and you are confronted with a wealth of information, your decision will be contingent on the information you are supplied with. And best practice as well as research suggests that it is very essential to forge these strategies in a flexible manner. So as much as possible, there is the need for you to have alternative strategies that you can easily fall upon when your initial plan fails to realize your aspirations. So there must be alternative strategies which can be consulted as and when the business environment changes. All right. So beyond the forging of an organization's mission and vision, formulating of the strategies and accompanying alternative strategies, there is also the need for a decision to be taken. And a number of considerations are exhausted when we are contemplating which strategy will be our best foot going into the business market. And some of these contemplations border on these questions. So what new businesses will be more vital for us to enter? What businesses will also be more appropriate for us to abandon? Such decisions will be based on the information you derive on your past performance. So if you are flourishing in some ventures at the expense of others, every business may have it has to make profit. And so at that point in time, you will have to target the ones that are bringing more returns. So whether to expand operations or diversify will also be contingent on the information you are gathering. And if it becomes necessary to enter the international market, particularly if a huge percentage of your revenue is coming from customers that are found outside the country where your headquarters or parent country is located, then it will be more reasonable to get closer to such markets. And at that point in time, we say you are entering the international market. And research suggests that the penetration into an international market must be done thoughtfully. A number of options are available that firms can adopt to enter into the international market. So when you are formulating your strategy and you are projecting some of these contingencies, you can enumerate some of them, including mergers and acquisition, joint venturing, franchising, offshoring, and so on and so forth. And the best one would depend on the circumstances that you find yourself in. Decisions are also usually taken on how to avoid a hostile takeovers. And whenever there is a hostile takeover whereby the new management that's occupy the upper echelon of an organization decides to perhaps sack huge number of the workforce and also cut down the compensation and benefits of the workforce. Such takeover has been reckoned to result in higher level of turnover intentions, lower level of employee commitment and satisfaction. And this will not alter well for organizational success. So during the strategy formulation stage, all these scenarios must be contemplated and decision has to be taken on them. Beyond strategy formulation, the organization will be furnished with wealth of information and a plan that can now be put to test. And that falls within the purview of strategy implementation. So generally speaking, the strategy implementation stage refers to the stage where actual action occurs. And it requires a firm to establish annual objectives that will guide their day-to-day activities, devise policies and procedures that will also guide purposeful action, incentivize employees for them to align their thoughts and actions to the corporate objectives that have been erected, allocate resources, and ensure that these resources are used judicially so that there will be less wastages and, if you like, breakages. So we can say that strategy implementation encompass an attempt to develop a strategy supportive culture, an organizational culture that will support the strategy that has been formulated. And implicit in this culture will be an organizational structure that is well thought through, an attempt to redirect marketing efforts to avenues where higher returns can be derived, preparing budgets to guide the spending trajectory of the organization, and also having in place a compensation and benefit system that harness and get the best out of employees. This means that individuals in the organization should be compensated for their contribution to the attainment of the strategic goals. it should not necessarily be based on their credentials, whether they have a degree, they have a master's, or they have a PhD. If at the end of the day, we are not able to, if there is a disconnect between these credentials and the ultimate performance of the organization, then it's been there is something wrong somewhere. So strategically, compensation packages must be designed to align performance to the strategic aspirations of an organization. Then the last stage of the strategic management process is the strategy evaluation. And within this stage, an attempt is made to determine which strategies are working well and which ones are not working well. And once this determination is done, it becomes imperative to jettison the ones that are not achieving enviable results. So 3 fundamental activities are essential during strategy evaluation. And this includes reviewing external and internal factors that are based for current strategies to flourish. It is also followed up by measuring performance to see whether it is deviating from the standards that was set from the outset of the business operations. And lastly, but most importantly, taking corrective actions. So these corrective actions may require that you realign your operations to fit the current changes in the business environment. Maybe at the time that you were forging your strategy, you were presented with an amount of information that is now outdated or not relevant. So the corrective actions components of the strategy evaluation is said to be the time in the strategic management process whereby when things are going wrong, measures or interventions will be thrown into the equation to help the firm come back on track. So this may mean that beside realigning your mission and vision, you may also have to realign your long-term objectives for it to become more realistic. It is also plausible that the technology and the competencies you currently have is outdated. So it becomes necessary that you adopt cutting-edge ones that can help you attain the results that you desire. So in this way, we can say that all strategies are subject to future modifications because external and internal factors are constantly changing. The business environment is not static. It is constantly changing. Today, COVID-19 will break out and it will change all the dynamics in the world of work. So when some of these supervening events occur and you still become fixated with the initial strategy that you formulated for your firm, the chances that you will not succeed is high. And that is why we are saying that all strategies are subject to future modifications. This also solidifies the idea that strategic management process is not a continuous managerial activity, but it is an iterative managerial activity. I'm taking it again. Based on the explanations I've provided so far, it is important to know that the strategic management process is not a linear or continuous managerial activity. Rather, it is iterative. So when we say a particular process is iterative, It means you have a critical end in view. And when you get to a particular point in time, you realize that the plan that you are following is not giving you the desired results. You don't have to wait for the 5-year or the 10 years long-term goals you have set to come to an end. Rather, in the course of your actions, you can modify and adapt it in order to get the best out of the plans that you are implementing. So there is this back and forth activity that managers assume whenever they are engaging in a strategic management process. And that also means that as humans, when you realize that your initial appreciation and options that you intended to use to solve a particular problem is not giving you the desired results, you don't have to operate like a robot. Rather, you have to what? Change your game plan so that you are able to get the best out of it. And that is why we say all strategies are subject to future modification. And for that reason, the strategic management process is an iterative process and not a linear or, if you like, a continuous managerial activity. Now, the key terms that we will be using this semester, as far as the strategic management course is concerned, include the concepts of competitive advantage. So what is competitive advantage? A firm is said to be enjoying competitive advantage if the firm is seen to be enjoying a higher share of the market pie that is there to be shared by the firm and its rivals. So if you take the telecommunication industry as an example, we can conclude that MTN has a competitive advantage over the other telcos. Because if you look at the number of subscribers that are patronizing the services of MTN, and you compare that to Vodafone, for example, the Telecel, Airtel, Tigo, and what have you, it is clear that MTN is enjoying a higher percentage of the market pie or the shares in the customer base. So simply put, any activity that a firm does especially well compared to its rivals can be discerned as a competitive advantage for the firm. And in this pursuit, it may also take the form of the firm having resources or possessing resources that its rivals will struggle to also possess. Some of these resources may be technologies or distinctive capabilities in terms of the talent of the human resources that are working assiduously in there. And once this talent is able to transform the fortunes of the organization for you to outcompete its rivals, then we can comfortably say that they are enjoying competitive advantage. So strategic management is all about gaining and maintaining competitive advantage, which has now become labeled as sustained competitive advantage. This is important because no organization operates on an island. In fact, firms are learning from each other with the passage of time. And so the technology which may be giving you an edge over them now, if it is purchasable or it is accessible to other firms, they are also inclined to adopt it in order to also increase their share in the market where they are operating. So how then do you sustain the competitive advantage that you are having? And that is what we call sustained competitive advantage. Now, best practice suggests that firms must strive to achieve sustained competitive advantage and not just competitive advantage. It is important to aspire for the sustained competitive advantage, because it is that one that can guarantee you long-term power over your rivals. So how do you strive to achieve a sustained competitive advantage? A number of options are available. And offset, I can say that the firm can continually adapt to changes in the external business environment, whilst also making good use of its internal capabilities. So at any point in time, the firm must be sensitive to what is happening in its business environment. It is this information that will help you to know how you can utilize your technology to outdo your rivals. Beyond the sensitivity to your business environment, the firm must also effectively formulate, implement, and evaluate their strategies that capitalize on these external and internal factors. So when you do your environmental scan and you become sensitive to your business environment, a number of factors will become there as either pushing you to have an edge over your rivals, or either crippling you from becoming successful in the environment where you are operating. So once you derive this information, it should form a center stage in the strategies that you'll be formulating and implementing. Now, the concept of a strategist. So who is a strategist? Strategists are individuals that are mostly responsible for the success or failure of an organization. For that reason, they usually occupy top positions in an organization. So they usually have titles or designations such as the Chief Executive Officer, the President of the corporation, the owner, and if it is also manned by a board, then it may be the chair of the board. It could also be characterized as the executive director, the chancellor, or the dean, depending on the organizational structure we are dealing with. Now, these strategies have a responsibility to help an organization gather, analyze, and organize information. And they are also responsible for leading some of these initiatives so that it achieves desirable results at the end of the day. Now, the issue of vision and mission statements. Many organizations today develop a vision statement that answers the question of what they want to become. So if you are trying to answer the question of what an organization wants to become in the future, then essentially we are dealing about the vision of the organization. And when this aspiration is captured or it is put on paper, it is expressed, then it becomes a vision statement. Developing a vision statement is often considered to be one of the first steps in the strategic planning process. And it even precedes the development of a mission statement. This is so because it is this vision that will help you to even realize the business you must go into. So what then is the mission statement? Mission statement is also primarily an enduring statement of purpose. So in research, when you say statement of purpose, it's simply an expression of why you are conducting the research that you are conducting. So an enduring statement of purpose must be able to distinguish one business from the other. It is this statement of purpose that will help us to know what business an organization A is into or why they are in existence and the reason of being existent for another organization. For that reason, the mission statement identifies the scope of a firm's operation in a product or market terms. Okay. External opportunities and threats, as well as internal stress and internal weaknesses. Now, these two themes that are in bold text borders on the business environment. As you may all be aware, the business environment can be compartmentalized into two main parts, including the external environment and the internal environment. So external opportunities and threats are largely the factors or forces that are beyond the control of an organization. So essentially, they are the external world out there. But so they include forces or factors such as the economic, the social, cultural, demographic factors, the political climate, the legal environment, the governance structure, technological advancements, and other competitive trends which may characterize the business environment. Internal strengths and weaknesses also encapsulate the internal business environment. And they are said to be an organization's controllable activities that are performed especially well or poorly and are also determined relative to competitors. So what this means is that unlike the external opportunity and threats which fall outside the control or purview of an organization, the internal strengths and weaknesses can easily be controlled by the organization. So if they want to pull a string to have a competitive edge, then they can start from that angle. So what are some of these internal strengths? Some of them include the strong brand reputation that an organization has. So a well-known and trusted brand, for instance, can attract and retain customers more easily. If you take, for example, Apple, it has a very strong brand and reputation if you are in for quality. And so once you're able to establish this strong brand and reputation, it also helps you to maintain customers. So you are able to attain customer loyalty and command premium over price. Because if you do the comparative analysis of the quality of services or product of the Apple and with that of other cell phones, you realize irrespective of how high they increase their price, their customers are always inclined to purchase it. So that is one internal strength that an organization can harness to retain its customers. Other internal strengths include innovation, having an innovative product development. So product companies like Google and Tesla are said to have excelled because of their constant investment in innovation. They are consistently bringing out cutting-edge products and technologies to the market. So if you are able to carve this niche for yourself as an enterprise, then it becomes, and when your competitors are not able to do the same, then it becomes your internal strength. Another internal strength that I can think of also including having an efficient supply chain system. So those of you that are familiar with Walmart, it has been adjusted over the period to have efficient supply chain that allows it to keep costs low and also manage their inventory effectively. In fact, it also go ahead to provide them a competitive advantage in terms of pricing. So whereas others may be charging exorbitantly for certain goods and services, Walmart is able to utilize their supply chain to cut down costs, and at the end of the day, pull a lot of customers to patronize their services. I can also think of another internal strength as having skilled workforce. So skilled workforce here, we are looking at having a highly skilled and motivated workforce that can enhance productivity and innovation. So we are not just talking about normal workers, but we are talking about individuals that have distinctive capabilities, which may be available to only your firm, and some of their capabilities too may be quite difficult for your rivals to imitate or replicate. And a company I can think of is Microsoft. They are said to have benefited from having top talent in the technology sector. And anytime they see a talent rising up, they are ready to spend huge sums of money to have such person on their side. Now, with respect to the internal weaknesses, some of them include poor customer service. So companies are known for poor customer service. Companies that are known for poor customer service, like the banks we have in Ghana and some of the telcos, they are said to almost always struggle with their customers. And under such circumstances, there is no way you will be able to retain them. So if you are characterized as a firm that has poor services towards your customers, then the tendency for you to retain them and have negative brand reputation is high. So that can be construed as an internal weakness if it is found in an organization. In the same vein, an internal weakness of an organization can be seen from an angle where the firm is fraught with higher employee turnover. So if you compare the rates at which people may be resigning or leaving the company to join competing organizations, if it is high, then that may be characterized as an internal weakness. It presupposes that the company may not be doing something right, and that is why all its talents may be leaving to join competing organizations. Now, when organizations suffer higher employee turnover rates, the negative repercussions is that they will have to incur huge sums of money to go through another recruitment, selection, train them. And the surviving employees may even develop lower morale because their environment and their peers keep on changing. So the rhythm with which you were operating will also keep on fluctuating, and such volatile environments does not augur well for business success. Now, if an organization has an outdated technology that it is still fixated with and utilizing, then it can also be construed as an internal weakness, because as much as possible, all organizations need to align their operations with the state-of-the-art technology, if not the best, so that they may not lag behind their competitors in terms of their efficiency and innovation. All right. So long-term objectives. What do we mean by long-term objectives? Long-term objectives are said to be specific results that an organization seeks to achieve in pursuing its basic mission. So these objectives are said to be essential for an organization to succeed because they provide the direction that needs to be pursued by the organization, and they also provide the benchmark that can be used in evaluating the success or failure of an organizational performance. So let me take my time and explain these bold texts. So when we say long-term objectives are essential for organizational success because they provide direction, what does it mean? It simply means that the objectives give a clear focus on where the organization is heading. And this helps all members to understand the goals and work towards achieving such goals. When we say these objectives also aid in evaluation, what does it mean? By setting measurable objectives, organizations can assess the progress, that is the success or otherwise. They can also assess their performance and identify areas where there's the need for them to improve upon. And that will also help them to pen down some achievements that they are making. So the outcome of this evaluation is that it will help the firm to know what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong. And lessons can be drawn from such evaluations for future implementation purposes. Now, when we say the objectives are essential for organizational success because they create synergy or synergy, what does it mean? It means that a well-defined objectives align the efforts of all departments and employees and ensures that everyone is working towards the same goal, which foster collaboration and teamwork. So synergy simply means all the efforts, actions, and inputs of individuals in the organization are converging, but they are not diverging. When we say it also reveals priorities, what does that mean? Revealing priorities simply means that the objectives highlight what is most salient or important to the organization. And this helps to allocate resources and efforts to those critical areas. In other words, it helps the organization to arrange in order of priority where their efforts must be directed and which activities can be put into the fridge and attended to in future. This is important because if you do not have this sort of order or systematicity, your efforts will not be properly channeled and you will not be able to achieve enviable milestones at the end of the day. When we say it focus coordination, that also means that the objectives ensure that all activities are coordinated effectively, reducing duplication. And so when we say duplication, it means that the same activity may be indulged by several people. And when that occurs, you will have several hands doing the same job whilst other jobs lie down idle. So this reduces duplication of efforts and enhances efficiency across the organization. So if you realize that one department or one individual has assumed a particular responsibility, then the other segments of the operation which is not attended to will now be focused upon. When we also say it provides a basis for effective planning, what does it mean? It simply suggests that objective serves as a foundation for developing detailed plan, strategies or actions, and ensure that the organization activities are aligned with its goals. So this makes sure that whatever the organization is pursuing at one point in time is aligned with the mission and vision of the company. So when we say organizing activities, it's analogous to the focus on coordination. So it implies that clear objectives helps in the structuring of organizational tasks and responsibilities. And this ensures that every single individual knows their role and the contribution they must bring on board for the attainment of organizational goals. Now, the motivating of employees parts of the bullet here also seeks to communicate that when employees understand the objectives and they also discern what they can do to contribute to the attainment of this objective, that alone can incentivize them to be motivated and engaged. If you juxtapose that to a situation where employees are in the darkness and do not even know clearly the objectives that they are striving to attain, that wouldn't be a better scenario. Finally, when we say it also helps organizations to succeed because of the controlling activities that is embedded in it, what does it mean? That also means that the objective serves as the benchmark or the standard against which performance can be measured and compared with. And this standard or benchmark will also become the basis that you can use to know whether you are doing the right thing or you are not doing the right thing. So if there are further actions or initiatives that can be introduced as a form of adjustment for an organization to stay on track towards attaining its mission and vision, then it is the controlling function or the controlling component that can help the organization flourish. Typically, long-term objectives are more than 1 year. So for some organizations, it may fall within the time horizon of 5 years. Others too may develop a 10-year long-term objectives. It depends on what they aspire to achieve. But research suggests that if it is too long, over time, you will have to indulge in a lot of adjustments and modification. But if it is around the time horizon of 5 years, even though you will still be making adjustments, your projections will be more realistic. Because just think about it. Forging a 10-year plan compared to forging a 5-year plan. By the time you get to the 5th year, you realize most of the things that you were talking about may not be attained with the capabilities and technology we have. Your technology and know-how may be outdated, so it will require more adjustment and concession. So as much as possible, long-term must hover around that time horizon. So what then are strategies? Strategies is like the plural of strategy, and it refers to the means by which long-term objectives can be attained. And it is also composed of the means and the ends that we tackled when I was explaining the concept of strategy. Annual objectives. So annual objectives are the short-term milestones that an organization can use to achieve or reach long-term goals. And they should be measurable, quantitative, challenging, realistic, and all that adjectives. These annual objectives are usually established at the corporate or divisional level. So this is contingent on the organogram that the company is having. So if it is having a divisional structure, which means they operate along different divisions or product lines, then under each division, they may have their annual objective. But if it is a vertical functional structure, wherein all the efforts of the company is directed towards a common objective, then the entity can also have a single annual objective. So policies. Policies are essentially the guidelines, or if you like, the rules and procedures which are established to support efforts to achieve stated objectives. And a number of examples of policies are available in organizations. So typically in an organization, you can have HR policies. Some of the HR policies may border on equal employment opportunity, which ensures that there is no form of discrimination towards no form of discrimination when it comes to HR practices such as hiring, promotion, and termination. As much as possible, the same level playing field must be provided, and the same criteria should be utilized in indulging in some of these HR activities. When these are codified, then we call it an equal employment opportunity in the field of HR. We can also have a policy on code of conduct from the HR, and this usually outlines acceptable mode of behavior and ethical standards that employees are expected to subscribe to. So going against some of these mode of conduct will mean that you have contravened the ethical arrangements, and that may have serious disciplinary actions meted against you. Still in HR, you can have a policy on attendance and punctuality, employee benefit policy, which detail the benefits provided to employees, such as health insurance, SNP benefits, and all sort of retirement packages, maternity leave, paternity leave. These days, we even call it parental leave. So a firm from the HR department point of view can devise employee benefit policy that details some of these policies. So for instance, if you are going on maternity leave, what does the arrangements in the organization say? And this may vary as you move from one organization to the other. But irrespective of how you look at it, employee benefit policies are also derived from labor law. So whatever the labor law is saying, you are expected to do, you are expected to forge policies which will reinforce the labor law, but not rather violate it. So if, for instance, maternity leave is supposed to be, is it 90 days, according to the labor law, then you are expected to provide more or the same, but not less. Other than that, your organization can be taken upon when you are reported to the Labor Commission, or even when your union takes it up to impress upon you. Policies may also policies may also be enacted to guide operations of an organization. So you may have health and safety policy that ensure that at all times, a safe working environment is created, and that's all facets of the organization, ranging from the employees and all other stakeholders, comply with the health and safety regulations. Going contrary to it may result in the revocation of the license of the firm to operate. In fact, in most multinational enterprises, when a lot of accidents are occurring and it is uncovered that the health and safety procedures are not fully implemented, it can result in the revocation of the ISO certification of such firm, and that will mean that their operations across subsidiaries may be truncated. So these are just a few policies that you may have to help one realize a successful strategic management venture. In fact, you can even have financial policies that may border on finance for Nokra. Your policies may border on budgeting. So budgeting policy, for instance, can guide the preparation and management of organizational budget, so that if something has not been itemized to be treated in a particular calendar year, or if you like, financial year, then unless it is a contingency that needs to be attended to, there wouldn't be any financial, there wouldn't be any money made available for it to be expended. So that may be characterized as a budgetary policy. You can also have internal control policies from the finance perspective, which also they are said to establish procedures that safeguard assets and ensure accurate financial reporting. So those of you that are doing accounting and finance, you have your IFRS standards and procedures that most companies are always adopting in order to be seen as doing the right thing. So that is just by the way of the policies. Strategic management model. So strategic management model is essentially the path through which strategic management process seeks to attain the mission and vision of an organization. And it attempts to answer a number of questions, including, in fact, there are 3 important questions that any strategic management model seeks to answer ideally in an attempt to develop a strategic plan. And these include, where are we now? The answer to the where are we now will help you to discern whether you are on the right path or there is the need for some corrective adjustments or interventions to be introduced to help you backtrack. And this can be, the answer to this question can be derived when you conduct an evaluation of your strategy. Where do we want to go? So the answer to this question will help you to forge a realistic and clear vision for your organization. How are we going to get there? The answer to this question will help you to know the means or plausible actions and initiatives that can be implemented for you to get desirable results. So generically, when we talk about a strategic model, an attempt is made to answer these 3 important questions in order to help the firm forge ahead. Now, what benefits do organizations derive if they decide to pursue strategic management? A number of benefits accrue to them, and they include the fact that strategic management allows organizations to be more proactive than reactive in shaping its own future. This means that through strategic management, an organization can anticipate and prepare for the foreseeable future challenges and opportunities, rather than adopt a waiting mode approach whereby they will be simply responding to events as and when they occur. This indicates that strategic management is beneficial to organizations since it keeps them, it helps the organization to always be in control of future events. Now, this approach of being in control or being able to predict and take charge of future unforeseen events involves setting clear goals for the organization, and this will help the organization to define their long-term objectives and desirable outcomes, which will then be cushioned by continuous analysis of the external and internal business environment to identify trends, opportunities, and threats, all to the advantage of the firm. Beyond the environmental scan that can be done to the advantage of the firm, it also helps the firm to embark on strategic planning, which entails developing a detailed plan and strategies to achieve their set goals. Strategic management also ensures the judicious allocation of resources. That is, resources are directed towards strategic initiatives that will drive future success. So if you look at the scale of preference of organizational activities, you are able to allocate resources strategically to aspects of your operations that are more dear to the organization's heart. It is also beneficial because it assists the firm to monitor and adjust regularly by reviewing their progress and make necessary adjustments in order to stay on track. So throughout history, the principal benefit of strategic management has been to help organizations to formulate better strategies through the use of a more systematic, coherent, if you like, logical or rational approach for decision making. So on the strategic table, compelling ideas are brought forth, and the best ones out of the drilling or the back and forth that will ensue will now be adopted. Hello, Albert.
Hello,
Albert
sir.
Kofi Sapon. Yeah, Albert.
Sir, please, when you were explaining the things, you made mention of when a worker gets injured, the company, the organization certificate, ISO certification taken from them. So let's say that if the fault is from the worker, the worker didn't comply to the rules and regulations of the safety
Arrangements.
organizations, yes, so can their certification also be taken without any
No,
investigation?
so under such circumstances, we can all discern that the fault was not committed by the firm. In fact, if it comes up that all the necessary protective equipments or the PPE that are required for the workforce to operate were provided and the environments were created, but as humans, people wanted to cut corners, and so they took off their gloves, and that is why his hand has been chopped off. If all these things are established and the fault is not traced to the company, then it will actually go to their advantage. But in a situation where the investigation suggests that the company was not forthcoming in the provision and the arrangement of some of these health and safety procedures, then that is where their action can be called to question. Are you okay now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You are welcome. So
Sir.
we are still on the benefits of strategic management, the benefits that organizations can derive when they integrate strategic management as part of their key managerial procedures. So the research also suggests that when a firm embraces strategic management, one of the benefits that they stand to gain is effective communication. You all agree that communication is key to the success or failure of any business activity. If the flow of communication is not forthcoming, then it can stifle others' creativity and operational outcomes. And in this regard, we are not only looking at the top-down communication, wherein information flows from top-level management to those that occupy lower positions, but we are also considering the horizontal form of information sharing, wherein information may move from one department to the other. And in that regard, the output of one department via the communication may become the input of another department. So in terms of strategic planning, strategic management is said to enhance communication within and without the organization by creating a platform for dialogue and participation, particularly if the decision at the strategic table incorporates the views and opinion of members that may not necessarily have a seat on the strategic table. At the end of the day, they are able to identify with the final outcome of the strategic table, and they are also inclined to help that it's materialized by succeeding. So once it has the ability to enhance communication, then we can also interpret that it helps to attain deeper and improved understanding, an understanding of views of others and also views of what the firm may be aspiring to pursue. Now, such an environment will create an all-inclusive atmosphere where people feel that their opinions will not be ridiculed. Now, this also, as part of the planning process, it creates an environment where there will be higher or greater level of commitment. Individuals, irrespective of their loci in the organization, will be inclined or committed to the achievement of the objectives that may be finalized from the strategic table. And they will also be inclined to ensure that the implementation phase is realized. And they are also going to do their best in their respective roles by working assiduously to ensure that it goes through. Now, it also ensures that the desirable results are attained. So all managers and employees that are familiar with the vision which is driving the actions and initiatives of the organization will be inclined to help the firm to succeed. And so that is how strategic management from the strategic planning components that may create a welcoming and a communicative environment can help a firm to flourish. Strategic management also stand to grant a firm some financial benefits when it is adopted. Research suggests that businesses that adopt strategic management concepts and initiatives are also able to record significant improvements in some of their metrics, such as sales, profitability, and productivity, compared to their rivals that may be doing things out of whims, caprices, and based on their gut feelings. So high-performing firms, in essence, seems to make more informed decisions with good anticipations of both short-term and long-term consequences as a result of strategic management. Now, non-financial benefits also accrue to firms when they decide to adopt strategic management. So besides helping the firms to avoid financial declines, strategic management is said to offer other tangible benefits such as enhanced awareness, non-tangible benefits such as enhanced awareness of the external threats, improved understanding of competitors, increased employee productivity, reduced resistance to change, and clear understanding of the performance reward relationship. So when we say there is a clear understanding of performance reward relationship, it simply means In fact, these points are quite detailed, so let me take them one by one. When we say enhance awareness of external threats, what does it mean? The benefit here is that strategic management may involve regular analysis of the external environment. And this helps the organization to identify and prepare for potential threats from competitors and potential changes that are currently existing in the business markets. There may even be regulatory shifts that require organizations to comply. So under such circumstances, the firm become more sensitive and aligned with what is expected of them in their business. Now, when we say improved understanding of competitors, of the strategies of competitors, what does that mean? So here we are saying that through strategic management, specifically through strategic analysis, an organization can gain insights into their competitors' strengths and weaknesses, and the strategies that their competitors may be using in the market. Such knowledge can now help the organization to develop an excellent competitive strategies to counter the ones that is being used by the rivals in order to help them achieve competitive advantage. So here they are going to have an edge over their rivals because they are in the know about what the means that is being capitalized upon by their rivals. So when we say it results in improved or increased employee productivity, what does that mean? That means that when employees understand the strategic goals of the organization and how their respective roles can contribute to the attainment of these goals, they will be more inclined in fact, it will incentivize them and make them more focused and work more productively, as opposed to a situation where they may be in the darkness. So clear objectives and shared vision will align employees' efforts to a common outcome desired by the organization. Now, when we say reduced resistance to change, what does that also entail? Strategic management encompass change management process. That is the processes that you take your organization and its stakeholders through whenever you are going through any form of shock or change. And this change management practice is designed to prepare and support employees through transition. That means that whenever you involve employees in the strategic planning process by tapping into their opinion and giving them a voice, this can reduce resistance from the employees. Essentially, they are going to see the final product of the strategic management as partly their efforts or their baby that they have nurtured. And so they will go at great length to make sure such an exercise succeeds. And when we say clear understanding of performance reward relationship, as far as the non-financial benefits is concerned, it seeks to communicate that strategic management helps to establish a clear nexus or connection between performance and reward. By aligning performance metrics with strategic goals, the employees will be sensitized. In fact, they will be able to see how their efforts directly impact the organizational success. And they will be more likely to be rewarded for pursuing such a trajectory. In other words, they will know which efforts will be rewarded and which ones will be punished by the organization. And if you are dealing with employees that are incentivized with such sort of communication, then it will help them align their performance with the reward that they are also aspiring to attain. In essence, we can say, based on these thematic areas or points, that strategic management enhance, if you like, a problem prevention capabilities of an organization, because it promotes interaction among managers. And within this interaction, they are able to become aware of their external threats, their internal capabilities, and they are also able to utilize such information to enhance the productivity of their employees. They are also able to reduce resistance to any form of change or innovation that may be brought on board. And they are also able to put in the mind of their workforce a clear synergy between their performance and the rewards that will be commensurate with such performance. Now, despite the benefits of strategic management, as I speak with you, some firms do not indulge in any form of strategic planning. Rather, they operate based on their gut reactions, based on how they feel. So, depending on their mood at one point in time, their operation will also be changing with such pace. So we are going to consider some of the reasons why a firm may still not embark on any form of strategic planning or strategic management activity. The first one is that, and you can construe this as an excuse or a reason why they may not indulge in it. The first one is that when individuals in the organization do not have a formal training in strategic management, then there is no likelihood that they are also going to implement it. After all, the thing is garbage in, garbage out. If you do not have any knowledge about it, it will be difficult for you to implement it as experts and erudites will expect you to do. So that is one of the reasons. Another one is that they may also not have an understanding or appreciation for the benefits of planning. In fact, most organizations are fortunate in that they may not have any plan in place, but at the end of the day, they may be breaking even or making profits. And so why would they change such game plan when no strategic planning is giving them results? So that is also another reason why some may not indulge in it. Again, some also have the perception that there is no monetary reward for doing planning. And these are individuals that have a short-term time horizon who expect that right after implementation, all the fortunes of the organization must also change. But strategic planning, as we learned some few hours ago aspires to attain fortunes of an organization in the long term by initiating actions and procedures now. So you may not necessarily see the benefits in terms of monetary now, but with the passage of time, you will realize you have been able to put up a robust organization that has an edge over all the competitors in that line of business. Also, there is no punishment for not planning. In fact, when you are setting up an organization, one of the parameters that can allow you, that will allow you the green light to pursue your venture does not include having a strategic plan or strategic planning in place. And for that matter, if you do not venture into it, there wouldn't be any punishment. So that is also one reason. Another reason is that some managers are too busy. They indulge in firefighting approach. And that makes them fail to plan ahead. So they are fixated with resolving internal crises as and when they crop up. And that level of fixation prevents them from looking into the future and thinking about how they can get a better future for their current organization. Some also perceives it as a waste of time since no product or service is made, because all the things that will be considered during the planning phase are ideas. If A occurs, then which scenario will be more appropriate for it? If A fails to occur and we are dealing with a scenario C, how can you address it? These are more or less like ideas. And individuals that are more pragmatics, who want to see a particular product or service immediately, may not fancy such venture. Another reason is laziness. So effective planning is painstaking, time-consuming, and requires a lot of efforts. And we all know time is money. So if you do not have the attitude to utilize your time appropriately, and you come across as the lazy or slothful one, then strategic planning will not be one of the things you will venture into. Some organizations also come across as being content with their current success, and failure to realize that success today is not a guarantee for success tomorrow will also blind them. So because they are content with what they are having now, they fail to think that their fortunes may change in future. And that is the situation which Nokia in particular faced. And for that reason, they have now been crippled out of the cell phone business. Overconfidence. So when organizations start enjoying competitive advantage, over time, they may feel complacent and think that their rivals cannot outdo them. And that sort of ideation can stifle their intention to engage in strategic planning. It is only when they start facing pitfalls, that is why they wake up to reevaluate their initial strategic plan, which may not be yielding favorable results. Again, prior bad experiences with strategic planning, which was done some time back or somewhere, may also kill their intention to do it, especially if over the last period of years, all your strategic initiatives go wayward, whilst the business environment keeps slapping you in the face. If that is the situation, there is a higher tendency for such experiences to kill the spirit of the organization to indulge in strategic planning. But the answer to such an experience is that perhaps when the mission and vision were being forged, followed by the scan of the business environment, a thorough exercise was not done. So you might have overlooked a number of important factors that have a role to play in your success or failure. And if that is the case, you can't expect to be doing the wrong thing, but be getting the right results. So that may also be the explanation for how some bad prior experiences may curtail strategic planning. We are now going to consider pitfalls in strategic planning. Essentially, irrespective of how well you indulge in strategic management, a number of pitfalls are suggested by the experts and research to be available. And so we are being admonished to be aware of these potential pitfalls and to be prepared to address them in order to succeed in our strategic planning venture. So here are some of the pitfalls. The first one is that we have to be wary of using strategic planning to gain control over decisions and resources. So when we say we have to be wary of using strategic planning to gain control over decisions and resources, it simply implies that when the process of strategic planning is used primarily to consolidate power rather than to genuinely guide the organization, it can lead to manipulations and inefficiencies. So at the end of the day, you may become fixated. With gaining power, and that fixation may force you to forge data in order to manipulate your operations. But the reality is that if you cook up numbers to if you cook up numbers that are not realistic of your operations just to satisfy your management, at the end of the day, the reality will dawn upon you and your rivals will be cutting your throat. When another pitfall is doing strategic planning only to satisfy accreditation or regulatory requirements. Most organizations indulge in strategic planning because it comes across as a formality for them to meet external demands. And if that is the attitude that is approached with, then it won't be taken seriously, and it is eventually going to fail to derive a meaningful change or improvement. Others are also too hastily to move from the mission development phase to the strategy formulation phase. The mission development phase to the strategy development phase. Now, if you do this, it simply means you are skipping essential steps, like thorough analysis of the internal and external environment. Don't forget, it is the information that you derive from this environmental scan that will inform your strategy formulation. So if right after forging your mission and vision, you go ahead to formulate your strategy, will it alter well for the business environments in which you want to venture into? And the answer is no. So it is important for you to be aware of this pitfall. Then failing to communicate the plan to employees who continue to work in the dark. So this one was explained indirectly as one of the benefits. And what this means is that if employees are unaware of their strategic plan, then they cannot align their daily activities and efforts, or if you like, respective roles with the organizational goals. And this is likely to result in poor coordination and direction because you are keeping them in the dark. So communication is key here. Top management making many intuitive decisions that conflict with the formal plan. Okay. So mostly these top level managers occupy positions of power, and they may be tempted to do things outside the plan that have been designed. What this means is that when senior leaders bypass the strategic plan and rely on their gut feeling, or if you like, ad hoc decisions, this is likely to create inconsistencies between the strategic plan and the new initiative they are bringing on board. And this has the likelihood to undermine the strategic planning process. So as much as possible, top-level managers are admonished to stick to their initial decisions, unless, of course, the adjustments they want to bring on board is informed by changing business environmental factors. And also when top management do not actively support the strategic planning process, then the likelihood that the strategic initiative will be killed from the outset is high. In other words, without active engagement and endorsement from top management, it will be very difficult for other lower level managers and functional managers and their constituents to succeed. The initiative will fail. In fact, it is going to fail to motivate the rest of the organizational workforce because the gurus in the company has not endorsed the process. So what basis do you have driving it through their truth? So as much as possible, you need to seek the approval of top-level management. And the last pitfall is failing to use plans as standards for measuring performance. There is also the likelihood that strategic plans, there is the need for strategic plans to serve as benchmarks, if you like, standards for evaluating organizational performance. So it should be the index against which you can discern whether the organization is doing well or not. Now, if these plans are not integrated into the performance management system, then it will be very difficult to track the progress or otherwise of the organization. And also, you will not be in a position to make the required adjustments. So as much as possible, you have to use the plan that will be derived from the planning as a basis of designing the benchmark or metrics for performance measurements. Another pitfall is that there is this misconception or notion that delegating planning to a planner rather than involving all managers may achieve faster results. But that is quite dangerous because when this issue occurs, the planning responsibility resides in the power of a single person or a team, excluding the inputs of other managers who may have valuable insights and contribution. So if it is only a team that is doing it, at the blind side of other cross-functional managers who may be closer to the ground and have perspectives that can enrich the strategic planning, then it is a serious pitfall that you need to overcome. So as much as possible, it must be all-encompassing. Another pitfall is failing to involve key employees in all phases of the planning. In fact, this one has been explained indirectly. Failing to create collaborative climate supportive groups also has been explained indirectly. Viewing planning as unnecessary and unimportant. Okay, so when we say you are viewing planning as unnecessary or unimportant, it simply means that you are perceiving planning not as a priority. So if you do not perceive the strategic planning or the outcome as not a priority, then your organization may fail to allocate sufficient time and resources to the pursuit of the plan. And that can result in ineffective or incomplete plans. So as much as possible, it needs to be accorded the needed attention and respect it deserves. Becoming so engrossed in current problems, that's insufficient or no planning is done. Okay, so when we say you are becoming so engrossed in this regard, it can be explained that when organizations are focused solely on addressing immediate issues, long-term planning can be neglected. So here there is a fixation with the present issues that is confronting the organization. And when these long-term planning are neglected, it can lead to reactive rather than proactive decisions. And we all know that some of these reactive decisions can be knee-jerking and have serious repercussions for organizational success. Lastly, being so formal in planning than flexibility and creativity are stifled. So when we say you are being too formal in planning, it simply means the strategic planning approach has the likelihood to create an environment where the planning process can be overly rigid. The planning process will be overly rigid, so little flexibility. And when there is this sense of over rigidity, it limits creativity and innovation. And this makes it difficult to adapt or adjust to changing circumstances cropping up as a result of the changing business environment. And under such circumstances, you will not be in a position to take advantage of new opportunities. So as much as possible, the pursuit of strategic planning should not be done in a rigid, linear, or continuous trajectory. Rather, it has to be iterative. Say iterative or iterative, depending on the secondary school you attended. So these are the 10, is this a 10 or a 12 pitfalls that you can look at? How to gain competitive advantage. So far, we have explained strategic management as encompassing those series of managerial actions and decisions that ensure the suitable formulation, implementation, and evaluation of organizational initiatives that ensure that an organization succeeds in realizing its long-term imperatives. But in doing so, it is important to be wary that organizations do not operate on an island, but they are found in an environment where their rivals will be adopting and implementing cutting-throat strategies to outcompete them. So the pursuit of competitive advantage is very much critical to the survival of any business entity. We also learned that competitive advantage refers to the degree to which a firm will do something much better or superior to what its rivals is doing. And under such circumstances, the firm will end up enjoying higher level of the market share within the market where it is operating. But we are admonishing that competitive advantage is necessary, but not sufficient for a firm to flourish into the future, because competitive advantage can be easily imitated or replicated when your rivals have the right capabilities and know-how to compete you. So that is why we are advocating for organizations to rather aspire for sustained competitive advantage. And this is the cycle that can be followed through to ensure that an organization gains a sustained competitive advantage. It includes establishing a clear vision and mission, which everyone does, but beyond it, you need to formulate strategies by collecting and analyzing information from your environment and making sure that such data features into your strategic plan in a clear and unequivocal manner. Following the formulation, you need to implement those strategies by establishing appropriate organizational structure that will support the interaction and intercommunication between all the cross-functional aspects of the organization. You also need to allocate resources to the most pressing and important aspect that can help the company realize its fortunes. You also need to incentivize individuals to direct their efforts towards the realization of the mission and vision of the company. And you must also have innovative strategies that can attract and retain your customers. Beyond these implementation strategies, you also have to put in place a mechanism to give you feedback whether you are doing the right thing or there is a need for you to take some corrective actions, which can help you come back to track. And that cycle continues. So this is what David 2017 is suggesting, that when you pursue this, you will be able to not only gain competitive advantage, but sustain it. But more importantly, opportunities are said to exist for companies to gain sustained competitive advantage. And some of these opportunities are determined by the capabilities of the firm. So when we talk about the capabilities, we are essentially referring to the resources and know-how that the firm may have, which may be available to its rivals. Now, these capabilities are said to be distinct if they are only available to a single firm. So a distinction can be made between distinctive capabilities or competencies and reproducible capabilities. Ordinarily, firms that enjoy competitive advantage are said to be characterized by reproducible capabilities, simply because the resources and know-how or technology they are utilizing to achieve their competitive advantage can be easily imitated by their rivals that have the financial muscle, or that is having the capital to purchase it from the patent owners. So to achieve a sustained competitive advantage, research suggests that the capabilities of an organization has to be distinctive. So we are going to, I'm going to explain what these distinctive capabilities may mean. When we say distinctive capabilities, they are those, if you like, characteristics or aspects of an organization that cannot be replicated by their competitors. And they can only be imitated with great difficulty. Typical example of these distinctive capabilities are proprietary technology. So when we say a proprietary technology, it means the patent and the ownership of the technology that is being used by the company is solely owned to the organization. So that if that know-how is belonging to a single organization, then its rivals may be violating rules of engagement when they decide to utilize that technology. It could also be a strong brand reputation that the firm has carved for itself over time. And having a good reputation is not something that is achieved overnight. It is something that comes with a lot of effort and diligence. So that can also be construed as a distinctive capability. Having individuals that have unique know-how or skills, which may be scarce in your community of practice. Okay, so once a firm possesses distinctive capabilities, it allows them to differentiate their products and services in the market where they are operating. And this also serves as an avenue for them to create barrier to entry for the competitors, ultimately leading to a sustained competitive advantage. So this is how Armstrong will suggest that if you want to pursue, if you are an organization that wants to pursue a sustained competitive advantage, then you should be targeting the development of distinctive capabilities instead of reproducible capabilities that is characterized with competitive advantage. On that note, I am done with my lectures for today. If there are questions for me, you can please go ahead and ask for us to discuss.